Welcome to Positive Read-Ins. In today's episode, I'll be looking at Kawabata Yasunari's novel, The Sound of the Mountain, Yamano Ota. Like Kawabata's other novels, this novel was serialized, so that means it was published over a series of maybe several years. But unlike his other novels, this novel is, in my opinion, his most developed as far as storylines go, but also as far as characters. This novel focuses on an elderly man, a man in his 60s, named Ogata Shingo. Gonna get attacked by bugs here. Ogata Shingo is a Tokyo salaryman. He lives just outside of Tokyo in Kamakura, and in some ways the novel has a repetitive element in the sense that every day is him and his son Shuichi traveling into work, and we just, so it's very much a domestic novel, but there are a number of themes that are developed quite sufficiently, as opposed to I think his other novels. One of these themes would be old age, and as we get closer to dying, trying to reflect on life and what does it mean to have a successful life? What does it mean to be a good parent? This is a question that concerns Shingo a lot. Partly, he's concerned about this because he's looking at his children and their marriages and seeing that they're falling apart. So his daughter, her husband has left her. He's even gone and tried to commit a double suicide. The other person he committed it with died. He did not. His son, who lives with him, with his wife, who is another very important character in this novel, Kikuko, they're having marriage problems. Shuichi has a mistress in the city, so he's often not coming home with Shingo as he should be. So Shingo is left looking at this and thinking, have I failed as a father? How much does a parent's success depend upon the marriage success of their children? So that's one question that is asked throughout the novel. Another one that comes up throughout this novel is marriage in general. What does it mean to have a successful marriage? So Shingo has, in his youth, he was attracted actually to his wife's sister, and she died, and he ended up marrying his wife, Yasuko. But even though he has a successful marriage, they seem like they get along well. There's this constant, both of them are constantly kind of living in the shadow of the dead sister. So this suppressed desires is a big one. This comes out a lot with between Shingo and his daughter-in-law, Kikuko. They have a close relationship. A lot of critics have commented on the kind of maybe suppressed sexual desires maybe that Shingo has for her, which obviously is quite bizarre, in line with some of his other with Kawabata's other novels, but that nothing like that happens. Nothing untoward happens. There's just a close bond with them, and you can see that Shingo actually cares about his daughter-in-law, and so that's another factor that comes in. Another one is death, of course. As you're getting older, death is something that you're going to be concerned about, especially when you're thinking about your legacy or what you're leaving, how your family. And so the Sound of the Mountain, actually, the first chapter is called The Sound of the Mountain, and the Sound of the Mountain is actually supposed to be, Shingo actually hears something, like the mountain. He interprets it as being the mountain, and he associates this sound with death. So yes, getting older, dying, this is a big theme in this. Memory, Shingo is often forgetting things. At one scene, he actually forgets how to tie his tie near the end of the the novel, but then, later on the train he remembers. So memory is one. Dreams, a lot of the suppressed desires come out in these dreams throughout the story. Shingo has some dreams and kind of even interprets them a bit, and there's a lot of symbolism in that. So definitely a rich kind of Freudian readings that could be happening in this novel if we look at this. For the broad development of themes, I would deem this novel Kawabata's most complex, but also on the character front, just the depth that he goes into in exploring Shingo and also Kikuko, but mostly Shingo, is definitely deeper than, say, his other novels. So again, I'm deeming this to be definitely my favorite, and I think his best. Other things that are familiar in this novel with compared to other Kawabata works, we have again a focus on traditional Japanese art. In this case, we get the no mask. This isn't a huge part of the novel, but there are some scenes with the mask, and has to do with this is kind of tied in with death and youth, because a lot of Shingo's friends are dying, and one of them had a collection of masks that he was given, and the mask represents youth. And there is a confession that Kikuko gives while she's wearing the mask. So that element's there. Also, we've got off stage. We've got the post World War II. So we have some soldiers there, but more so, and this is probably, I would say, one of the more interesting things about this novel. All of these characters are affected by things that have happened off stage or happened in the years past. So like that, it's kind of like a Faulknerian novel in that sense, though written in a very different style. But yeah, so Suichi, the son, Shingo interprets his failure to connect with his wife as being a result of some kind of mental scar from the war. I've already mentioned the fact that Shingo is kind of haunted by his wife's sister's ghost, and it's not a real ghost, but just that her beauty and what could have been there. So yeah, that's all in the background. We have war widows are going to play a part in this, which I'm going to look at in a moment, and like I said, some soldiers make some appearances here and there, often with some criticism. Another aspect I'd like to look at in this novel is Kawabata's use of symbolism. There's a lot throughout this novel. Kawabata's writing style is often compared to the haiku, which I think is a bit exaggerated, but what's going on there with the haiku comparison is, one, the simplicity in Kawabata's writing style, but also this mingling or connection between everyday objects, often natural ones, nature, and something about the human sphere. In one scene here, you get the narrator describing flowers, and there's a lot of kind of sexual allusions to them, and this is connected with Kikuko, so maybe, to kind of express this suppressed desire that Shingo has. But the one I want to look at here, again, comes at the beginning of the novel, the same first chapter, and then we get it again. It ties into something that happens later. I think this is a very sophisticated technique that Kawabata is using. So in the opening scene, the opening chapter, we have Shingo returning home, and he decides to stop at a fishmonger's, and he's ordering some food, some fish to bring home. And so he orders some herons. I'll just read from this. The heron were not the smallest possible, but they were a little larger than minnows. The girl did not seem to be especially put off by the show of disapproval, however. So this girl he's talking about, these two women who showed up, who Shingo is kind of looking at, maybe with some disapproval here. We'll see why. The man took up the heron in a bit of paper and handed it to her. But we didn't need any fish, said the second girl, hanging over the other and prodding her elbow. I wonder if they'll still be here on Saturday, said the other. She was looking at the lobsters. My boyfriend sort of likes them. The second girl did not answer. Startled, Shingo ventured a glance. So I'm guessing he's startled because she mentioned the boyfriend in public. Prostitutes of the new sort. They had bare backs, cloth shoes, and good figures. The fishmonger collected the dice meat at the center of the board, dividing it in 3 parts, began to put it back in the shells. We're getting more and more of their kind, even here in Kamakura. So I'm guessing that's the fishmonger. So that's again, it just is a everyday kind of occurrence. Goes to the shop, sees these women, and he thinks about them buying. Why are here they are buying lobsters? Like these prostitutes, and wanted to cook this for their boyfriends. When he gets home. This part I'm not going to read, but when he gets home, he sees that Kikuko actually bought him a lobster. So I think, again, there's some interesting connection here. He's not saying she's a prostitute, but there's clearly this linking of desires. But then how this comes up later, so later in the novel, Shingo actually goes to his son's mistress's house, and these are the war widows. And when he gets there, this is the description we get of the house and the women there. A woman in an apron came from the kitchen. Her face went tense as she started to take off the apron. She had on a navy blue skirt, and her feet were bare. Mrs. Ikeda, I believe. You once honored us at the office with a visit. Yes, it was rude of me, but Eiko dragged me along. So Eiko is Shingo's old secretary who kind of brought about this meeting with Suichi's mistress. Her apron wadded in one hand. She looked at him inquiringly. There were freckles even around her eyes, all the more conspicuous because she did not seem to be wearing powder. She had a delicate, well-shaped nose, and one saw a certain elegance in the narrow eyes and the fair skin. No doubt the new blouse had been made by Kinu. Kinu is his son's mistress. I was hoping to see Miss Kinu. She spoke as if requesting a favor. She should be home soon. Would you like to wait? A smell of grilling fish came from the kitchen. Shingo thought it might be better to come later when Kinu had had her dinner. On the urging of the Ikeda woman, however, he went inside. Now that's just one sentence there. A smell of grilling fish came from the kitchen, but it's definitely deliberate. We're supposed to connect that cooking of fish, which in these new women, who he describes just later as being from the War Widows Club. They've decided not to go back to their own family, not to go back to their husband's family, to kind of start out on their own, which would be certainly unique in this environment, a new kind of behavior. I'm sure they would be looked at maybe in some ways as being prostitutes, but he's connecting there with the fish as well. So I think in this is a great example of using symbolism to connect ideas with characters, but also that ambiguity, like who is the who are the prostitutes? Who are the fallen women? Is Kikuchi, who Shingo clearly loves, is she a fallen woman because she's willing to put up with Shuichi? Is Kinu a fallen woman because she's fallen trapped to his son? We don't know, but these are the kind of questions we can start asking ourselves as we read this. So, like a lot of great literature, this is highly ambiguous. A lot of ambiguities here. A lot of thought-provoking passages. Thank you for watching Positive Readings. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe. Reading and writing are choices. Let's make them.